Yeah, there's fresh chips all over the milling machine. That can only mean one thing. Those four little words I say quite often. I made a tool. Welcome back, everybody. It was another day of just a lot of miscellaneous paint prep work for the next batch for the Farmall H project. We've got a lot of minor parts masked and ready to hang to paint. I spent part of this morning doing the necessary filling and sanding on the air cleaner top, on the air cleaner body, and then just arranging all these pieces on different stands so that we can paint them. That's got a broomstick going up the center of it so that it can't tip over. Seat base on a pedestal, the upper seat frame on its own base so that I can hinge it up, paint everything on the bottom. That's just the air conditioner, just ignore that. And then hinge it right back down, set it on that metal stud, do the top, and then the coil spring as well. And that's all well and good. It's pretty simple to get this stuff prepped and set up for paint, but we get to the belly pump. We rebuilt this in the last episode of the Farmall H series, and this is just an awkward piece. So I had a few challenges to overcome. How do you paint that and then be able to move it without touching it until the paint dries? And then they're difficult to remove and install under the tractor. So, well, I went into the shop manual, got a few ideas, decided to put my own spin on things. So right here in the hydraulic pump section, they give you plans for making a couple of T-handle tools. One goes in from each side, that's the belly pump right there, and they utilize this keyhole slot that runs all the way through the base of the casting. That's all well and good, but it requires a person on each side of the tractor, and the majority of the time, I work alone. So I didn't really like that setup, but I liked the premise of it. And I have a mechanical second man right there. I just needed to build him a set of hands. So to make that do everything that I needed done with this without me having to even touch it, like I said, I'd like their idea of using the keyhole slot in the bottom of the housing, so I put my own spin on the plans. They spec'd 5/8 diameter rod to go in there. When I measured it out, I could tell that was a lot larger opening than that. 7/8 looked like it was going to fit it just fine. And as luck would have it, I had some 7/8 round rod here in the form of this twisted off worm steering shaft. This was from Senior's Farmall 350 diesel from when he still had that. And he had that heavy duty Balin power steering unit on it. And with the heavy loader work that he'd do, well, if he wasn't careful, he learned that he could twist these worm shafts right off at the top of the bolster. So we kept it around because 7/8 diameter shaft isn't really that easy to find. So I decided, let's just lop a chunk off the end of that. So that's just what I did, and you know what? That 7/8 steering shaft fits in there just perfect. So we were up and running with the new tool. Next thing I did was mimic the little peg that they put on the end of the 5/8 shaft. I just drilled and tapped a hole for a 3/8 coarse thread bolt, ran it in there until it tightened down, cut the head off, and that fits that keyhole just perfectly so that the shaft cannot rotate inside of it. Flipped it around and I milled a generous flat into the other half of the shaft. That sets us up for the next step. I had this scrap piece of 1/2-inch steel bar stock, and I also had this old shaft that was of sufficient diameter, so I put that in the bandsaw, cut a chunk off the end of it, cut another chunk off the end of the 1/2-inch bar, slotted the round chunk, turned the bottom of it down, and then welded the 1/2-inch bar to the top of that and drilled the 7/8 diameter hole that the aforementioned shaft would pass through. Next, I welded this 1/4-inch blocker plate, just partially obstructing the edge of that 7/8 hole, and that will work in conjunction with the flat that I milled onto the shaft. So that means the shaft can pass through that 1/2-inch plate and not rotate. It's all held stationary together. So to assemble it, you take the shaft with the flat milled in, you start that in first, and then our base piece goes up in this gap between the two keyhole openings, and then you just slide everything in until it all centers out. So now we have a holding device on the bottom of this belly pump that cannot rotate, It has a little bit of cant back and forth, which is good. That's going to come in handy later. All we have to do now is remove the lifting pad from the jack. And the turned down end of the adapter fits right in its place. Simple as that. And this is made so that with the jack all the way down, it will easily fit under the torque tube of the tractor. And then once you get it close to being in place, just jack it up, keep on going until the bolts are pretty close to being in alignment. With the cant that I talked about before, that gives you a little bit of adjustability to get everything lined up, get all the bolts started, get it drawn up, and then you just lower the jack. The adapter automatically disengages from the jack, and once that's out of the way, you just take the two adapter pieces back out and you're good to go. And it's also going to work excellent for painting, because I can wheel this outside on the jack, prime it and paint it right where it is, wheel it back into the shop, and it can sit there until the paint is dry and I'm ready to put this into the tractor. So this is a tool I've been thinking about making for a while, like years. And even going forth in the future, it's really going to make working on the belly pumps on the H's and the M's a lot simpler. So from a pile of scrap and broken tractor parts to a finished and useful tool. If anything, I'll just have to do a little bit of touch up in that groove, because it is going to block me out of getting paint in that area really well, but I don't mind that. It's on the bottom of the tractor too, so no big deal. Yeah, this is a rather short episode. I know it's all I've got for y'all right now, because we've been doing so much for like just paint prep and busy work on the H. When I have something more exciting to report, you'll be the first to know. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope this episode was useful, and perhaps it will even spark some better ideas still for other people in making adapters and tools to work on pieces such as this belly pump on the old Farmalls. Appreciate the viewership, everyone, and I hope to see you back again.